Hi, and welcome to the Copycat Stitch podcast. I'm Bailey, and I'm the Copycat Stitch, and I have some projects to talk about. Now, in my defense, I have barely cast on. I cast on one thing since last time, and as per usual, I cast it on basically the same day I filmed the last podcast. I don't know why this is my habit, but every time I sit down and talk about my projects, I get all inspired and start a new project. I am currently stifling the desire to cast on a whole bunch of new things. It is cooling down here, although I know it's not permanent. We always have like a surge of heat at the end of summer, usually in September in upstate New York. Right now it feels really cool, and we've had a nice stormy summer day. It wasn't a very cool day before the storms, but it is now, and I can't help but think about cozy fall cast-ons all the time. I have been making a lot of plans for fall cast-ons. If you're curious, you can check out my Ravelry queue. But I have not actually cast on many of them yet because I am trying so hard to focus on finishing up the ones I've already started and wrapping up as many summer projects as I can. Now, I know I've talked a lot on here about how my seasonal switch from summer to fall always hinges on our late summer, early fall vacation, which is coming up in a couple weeks. So my goal is to kind of wrap up everything I can in the next couple of weeks before we leave. I do have plans for a couple of vacation cast-ons that I want to take, and I do plan on making a video about those because, as always, oh, it's not even Annie, it's Audrey this time. How rare. Hi, kid. Are you going to come say hi? No, she's never going to jump up. She's not an affectionate cat, so she will not jump up and say hi, but she's here. Just so you know. Anyway. I plan on, oh, there's Annie. Okay. I was wondering. Hey, kiddo. So I'm planning on doing a couple special cast-ons for my vacation, like always, because I have a lot of criteria that I use when I'm choosing vacation cast-ons to make something that's fun and memorable and sometimes on theme, but also easy enough to work on when you're traveling, because it does have sort of different parameters when you're traveling than if you're just at home. Anyway, I have mostly existing projects and one new cast on to show you today. I don't think anything is technically a finished object. Well, sort of. One is nearly finished. Okay. I'm going to bounce all over the place. A lot of these are very nearly finished. And that is very gratifying. And that is also the other thing that's pushing me to keep going and to try to finish things up, as opposed to getting overwhelmed and just like jumping into fall and casting on some woolly things, because these are so close to being done that I think I could knock out a whole bunch in a row, and I think I will. So I think the one that's closest to being done is my everyday bag. So let's talk about that. Hi, Anne. And I say that because it is done being knit. It's bound off, and this has actually already been blocked. So this is my everyday bag. It is a bit smaller than I was expecting, but it's stuck in it, and I think it will stretch with use. So even though it's bound off and blocked and all the ends are woven in and it's perfectly finished, the reason I say it's not done is because I'm sewing a lining for it. And I'll talk about that in a second. Let me talk about the knit first. So this bag I made with 2.5 skeins of a Noro yarn, and I'm forgetting which Noro it was because I bought two at the same time. But I got two of them at my local yarn store when they had a sale recently. It's a really nice fabric. I don't know if it's ideal for a bag. I talked about this when I bought the yarn. It is 60% wool, 40% cotton. Oh, that's right. It's called Hanui cotton. And it's a lovely fabric. I really like the color, but I don't have a ton of faith that it won't like pill and felt over time. I guess that's not the worst thing for a bag. I would just hope it's evenly. Anyway, this was a really cool construction for a bag. So you can see it's got these kind of rounded pockets or like folds on the side, but the construction is so simple because it's actually, first of all, 100% seamless. You use Judy's Magic Cast On for the cast on, which is right here in the middle of the bottom. So there's no seam. And then once you've worked all the way up and bound off, for the sides, and you taper all the way up to the top of the handles, you Kitchener stitch the top of the handles together. So there's no seams anywhere on this whole bag, which is really cool. Anyway, I blocked it in its folded up position because I wanted it to stay that way. So now it's going to make it difficult to sort of show you, but it's basically just a rectangle. And it's a little more complicated than that. It is super intuitive. Once you start knitting, it's so obvious and so straightforward and super mindless. I found this one really, really fun to do. And it's a paid pattern, but it was actually a slightly more affordable pattern. I think it was like €3. That comes out to about $4. So it's less than a garment pattern, most of the garment patterns that I see, which I think is reasonable, because even though it's a really simple design, this is not something that I would have come up with on my own. I don't think it's like super easy. It's not basic, but it's straightforward once you see how the designer thought about it and wrote it all out. And there's lots of thoughtful touches in here to make it fold where it's supposed to fold. And I just think it's a super fun pattern. So I absolutely recommend it. So part of the reason that I want a new bag is because when I'm walking home from work, I'm carrying like 3 tote bags and it's absurd. And I want a nice bag that fits my laptop so I don't have to carry multiple bags like that. So this technically is just about the same height as the laptop. Now, like I said, I expect it to stretch a little. I almost feel like maybe I should use it without sewing the lining in for a couple days. And then once it's stretched, sew the lining in so that the lining actually fits. I have started the lining. So I don't know if you remember this fabric here. This was I think it was a fat quarter. I don't know. It was either a remnant or a fat quarter that I got at a thrift store recently. It's just this plain little ditzy floral pattern. I thought the pinks in the floral worked well enough with the color of the bag. And honestly, I was just trying to pick something that kind of coordinated with it that I could use, but it's not a big deal because it's just the inside of the bag. So basically, I'm totally winging this. I cut this rectangle because this is about the size that it would need to be if I sewed it in and then folded the sides in like the sides of the bag are folded in. So this is basically the same dimensions as the unfolded knit bag. But then I also wanted to make a quilted pocket for the laptop, because a big part of why I have so many bags floating around when I go back and forth to work is because I have like a proper laptop, one of those like awful nylon black laptop shoulder bags, the like standard issue ones, shoved inside a tote bag because I don't want to carry around just the nylon bag, but I also don't have a sleeve for the laptop. So I thought if I sewed a lining that includes like quilted laptop sleeve, then I won't need all of that bulk anymore. So I took what was left. So this is, there's no offcuts here. I basically just cut it to the dimensions that I needed, and what was left. I have no experience quilting. I understand that this is probably very, very wrong from a quilting standpoint. And it's messy, but it's just to protect my laptop. It's going to be on the inside of a bag. I'm the only one that's ever going to see it, and I'm not even going to see it very often because it's going to be sewn into the lining of a bag. So I had quilting batting. So I just put one layer of batting in between this folded over piece of cotton, and I did this sort of improvised diamond quilting across. It's very uneven, but it'll do the job. It'll protect the laptop. So fold it over. I believe the laptop will be able to slide in here. So I'm trying to figure out now. And again, I think I'm going to use the bag a little while, let it stretch out before I do this so I have some time. But I'm just trying to figure out how I want to do it. And I think in the end, I'm trying to simulate the edges being folded in. Like, I think if this is just the one side and then this is like the main pocket of the bag and can fold out, that would be good. I don't know. I'll figure it out. But yeah, that's where that one is. So it's a really fun project. It was a relatively quick project, and I think it will be very useful to have. Okay. So there are several projects that I've been working on a lot. And one of them is my pressed flowers pullover. I'm very, very nearly done with this pullover. Because I was working on it, I described on here so many times how I was working on the body and the sleeves at the same time. Because I'm using this slow color changing sheepish swirl held double. And I only have these 2 cakes held double, so I effectively just have the 1 ball. And I wanted the color change to be consistent between the body and the sleeves, so I was doing 1 flower repeat on the body, and then 1 on one sleeve, and then 1 on the other sleeve, and then going back to the body, and so on. And I did that a whole bunch, and it was starting to feel like a slog, so I went back to the pattern to see, well, how many am I actually supposed to do for the body? And the body doesn't have a set number of repeats, but it says, you know, so many inches. And I looked in the sample photos in the pattern, and that person had done 5 flower repeats since they split for sleeves. And at that time, I had also done 5 flower repeats. When I measured it, it was a little short of the measurements stated in the pattern, and I thought, I have a long torso, I'll do 1 more repeat anyway. So that was quite motivating to me because I was like, oh my goodness, I'm actually nearly done. So I did that last repeat on the body. I did the body ribbing. And then honestly, after that, when it's just the body and this, or excuse me, the body is done, and now I'm just working on the 2 sleeves, which are both significantly far along because they're at least as long as the body. I only actually had to do, I think, 3 or 4 more repeats after that, and it went way, way quicker when I didn't have to contend with the giant body circumference anymore. So I yesterday finished the pattern on the 1 sleeve and did the ribbing, and then this morning I finished it on this arm, and I've started the ribbing, and I'm very, very close. As you can see, I'm less than a dozen rounds on this sleeve until I'm done with this sweater. Now, you can probably also see that this ribbing is very messy and flaring out and kind of odd. I followed the instructions. I think it's just because this yarn is quite odd, and I do think that a steam block might tidy this up a bit. I'm hoping it does. If it doesn't, I might have to frog back the ribbing and do something else with it. Maybe a twisted rib would be tidier. I don't know, but it's really uneven. And the bind off isn't very even, and I took a lot of care in the bind off, so I'm not sure. But I love how the colors came out. I love how it kind of snuck up on me and was suddenly done. And I'm very pleased with this one. And I know this one has been quite popular on here too. I've had so many comments about how this one's coming out, so thank you so much. I'm quite proud of it, and I'm glad everybody's enjoying it so much. And to all of you who have suggested that you would like to start your own pressed flowers project after seeing this one, do it. It's fun. I love the mosaic knitting. I think it's very potato chippy, and especially with this color changing yarn, it just stayed so interesting. Like I said, the end of the project totally snuck up on me because I was enjoying it so much. So there's my pressed flowers pullover. I've been working on my Hygge burst blanket a lot also. This pattern, I love it so much. I mentioned before, I kind of started it as a pure stash busting project. I honestly just wanted to get some of this acrylic yarn out of stash. I have so much acrylic, and I just had fun picking a palette. So I went online and found a fun granny square blanket that I could make, and I thought this will be a long-term thing. I'll just kind of make granny squares when I feel like it. And as I discussed last time, I tore through it. I made more granny squares than needed for the project without realizing, so then I made a bunch more and decided to make it 1 row and 1 column larger. And since then, I have not only finished all the squares, finished blocking all of the squares, laid them out and decided what order I want to assemble the blanket in, but I've also mostly assembled the blanket, and it's nearly done. So to recap, this blanket is supposed to be 8 by 10 squares, and I had a lot of yarn left, and I had already made more than 80 squares, so I went with a 99 square blanket, so it's going to be 9 by 11 rows. And it's squares are all joined at the end with a continuous join as you go method, which is so gratifying if you haven't done it before. It's truly so nice to not have any seams, not have any ends, and just kind of keep going. And if you're unfamiliar, I'll kind of describe it when I have the blanket up here. But I blocked all of my squares. I think I had them 3 or 4 deep. I pinned them all to my blocking mats at the same time. Since it's acrylic, it's just a steam block. And I just did the 4 pins in the corners of the granny square just to open them up a little. And I steam blocked them all at the same time. And then I brought them all over to my couch, which wasn't the best surface to do this on, but it worked well enough. And sort of had them all in stacks and spent maybe half an hour to 40 minutes laying them out roughly in the order that I wanted them. It was kind of hard to see because the surface wasn't big enough and they were overlapping, but I kind of judged it based on not putting the same colors next to each other and trying to like equally distribute the colors as well as I could. And once I had those rows set, I picked up all of the stacks as I had them. Oh, this is all stuck together. There are 9 squares in each row, like I said, because it's 9 by 11. So I took every row of 9. This isn't lining up very well. And I stacked it up like this, and I had them all 11 stacks out. I used my like needle, what are they called? Stitch holders, these old fashioned stitch holders, and stuck them through the granny squares in the order that I know they're supposed to come off on. And then I have them each labeled with a post-it on top so I know which row they are. So I wouldn't lose track, and that system has served me very well so far. So I am, for my continuous join as you go method, using this sport weight vintage Mary Maxim acrylic. I'm holding it double because it's a sport weight, which does make it thicker than the worsted that I used for all the squares, but I kind of like it. I like that the border, the neutral border around all of them is a little bit denser than the squares themselves. So let me finally show you. I don't know if you noticed, I held up stack number 10 because I've already joined 9 rows. I can't stop on this blanket. It's so fun. And this one's a free pattern. You should definitely try it if you're a crocheter because it's so gratifying. This is going to be bigger than the frame I have set up, but I'm going to do it anyway. Oh my gosh. Do you believe this? Like, I swear I only started this blanket like 5 or 6 weeks ago. From the very beginning, I've barely worked on this. I love it. So I've just, you know, like I said, those stacks are in the order they're supposed to come off. So I'm, let me see, where's the beginning? This is, when you're doing the continuous join as you go method, because I'm right-handed, you work from right to left. So this is the first square and you work across the rows and then kind of like a typewriter, come back. So, well, I guess I'll just hold it up here because I don't know if it's gonna, well, actually, I think I'm not quite through. So the part that I'm on right now where my active yarn is the end of a row. I just finished row 9 and started my way back across. So if you're not familiar with continuous join as you go, you have all your squares done and ready and stacked up like I do. And then what you do is you work across the top and side of one, and then you join in the next one. And as you're working this side of the next one, you're doing a slip stitch into the corresponding stitch on the last one you did. And then you come up and do the naked side and come back down and do it again. And you kind of go, 3 sides on all of these all the way across. And then when you get to the end and you come on this one, join this square, come around, and then we've just got that first one, you work your way all the way back across the entire row. So all 9 squares, you're doing the bottom at the same time, which is the step that I'm on here now. So the last square I joined was this blue one in the corner. And now I'm working my way back all the way across, and I will go all the way across all of these. And when I get all the way back to this end, I'll join in the next row and do that 2 more times for the last rows. And then the very last step is going along this last side, this one raw side. So I am playing a bit of yarn chicken with this. When I started, I believed I had 6 skeins of that Mary Maxim Sport. I in fact had 5 and a partial skeins. So I'm gonna get pretty close. I'm thinking already I won't have enough to do extra rounds like a border at the end, but I have leftovers of some of the colors. If I wanted to do a border, I could do that. I might just leave it without an extra round because it's already a very large blanket. I think if you can see, this is everything I have left. So I have most of these 2 skeins. I think the last, I did, to try to gauge how much yarn I could get out of it, I started with 2 full skeins to see how far that would get me, and I'm pretty sure I got 3.5 rows. So in my head, that should be enough. Was it 3.5? No, it was 4. Oh my gosh. Well, I did it to better understand how far the yarn would get me, but now I've completely forgotten how far I got. So that math doesn't matter. Anyway, at the time it made sense to me. I think I made it just about 4 rows, just shy of 4 rows. And I thought, well, that's fine, because if I've got these 3 pairs of skeins to hold double, that's 12 rows worth, but I only have 11 rows, so I'll make it. But when that one skein ended up being more like 2/3 of a skein, half a skein even, no, it was more than half. That kind of threw a wrench in it, and that might be just that extra amount that I needed. So it did end up being a bit of a game of yarn chicken. I will fudge it at the end. I'm not gonna try to acquire more yarn. I'm not gonna go out of my way. I'll end up finding a different off-white acrylic in stash. I've got several scraps left over from making the squares, because I don't know if you can see, but some of the squares I used an off-white color anyway. I think that's the off-white. I don't know. I had so many shades of beige. This one's definitely an off-white. So I have a couple of those scraps. If I have to, I'll do that. I don't love that idea because it might look a little different just around the edges right in the corner, but I'm going to do what I have to do. It's a stash busting project, and I will bust stash no matter what. So let's talk about, I did not forget the name of this shirt again. I keep forgetting the name of this pattern every time. It's a Poison Girls pattern. I forgot it last time as well. I always think Sweetheart Blouse, but it's not, because I was making the Sweetheart Bomber from them. I think it's a flower. Is it named after a flower? I don't know. Anyway, I've made a lot of progress on this. I haven't worked on it very recently, but I did make a lot of progress on it a couple weeks ago since I last spoke to you. So obviously, I've finished the body. I finished working up the sides of the neck on both sides. It's got a very low scoop neck in the back. And I attached the shoulders and did this neck ribbing. And then I also followed the directions to cinch the front. Now, I didn't permanently cinch it. I kind of just temporarily tied it off with some yarn, because I want to customize that once it's finished and I can try it on and see how it looks and everything. But you can kind of get the idea of how it's going to look when it's done, and I'm very pleased that it's really cute. But also, as I mentioned, I'm mentally in fall now, so I kind of don't care if I finish this anymore, because I'm not going to wear it this year. I'm doing the cap sleeve option on this, so theoretically there's not that much knitting to be had on the sleeves, and I should probably just buckle down and do it. And I'm telling myself that's what I'm going to do, but realistically I don't know if that's the case, and this might end up hibernating until spring. But either way, very cute pattern, very fun, vibrant, thematic yarn, and I'm very much enjoying it. I did make a big is an overstatement. I did make a mistake when doing this that I didn't realize until the very end. So the way that you do this, you bind off a bunch of stitches as you're approaching for the armhole, and then start doing slow decreases all the way up to the top here. And you work both left and right sides at the same time from 2 separate balls of yarn. And I think I mentioned that last time because I was worried about the color pooling for the entire body. I alternated skeins because it's hand dyed, but then I only had 2 skeins left. So by the time I got to the top and you're supposed to have a separate ball attached for both sides, I didn't have the choice to alternate skeins anymore. I don't think it's noticeable. It's fine. But by the time I got to the very tippy top and was ready to bind off, I realized I had several stitches fewer than I was supposed to have, but they were the same on both sides. So I had made the exact same mistake and I couldn't figure out what I had done. And I said, you know what? I think it was like 5 or 6 stitches on each side. And I thought, that's a shame, but I'm not going to go back and redo this entire section on both sides. That's like way too much. It is what it is. My top is going to be an inch too far in on the shoulder on both sides. And then when I went to do the back, which is the same, it's literally just repeat directions for the front and back. I realized when I did the very first bind off for the armhole shaping, I read the wrong sides and I bound off like 5 too many stitches on both. So that's what happened. So the front and the back didn't perfectly match by the time I got up there, but I kind of just fudged it. I knew that was the case and that the back panels were a few stitches wider. So I kind of, like I said, I kind of eased it in on both sides, and I think it's fine and it's not going to be a big deal. But if you needed a reminder that no knitter is perfect, there you have it. I screwed up on this and I still love it. I've got quite a bit of yarn left. I have gotta be nearly 100 grams. Pretty yarn too. Okay. All right, my top sole I'm making a lot of progress on, and I do have in my heart that I want to wear this one. I want to have the option to wear this one on vacation. I don't know if I'll actually feel like it once I'm down there in the heat, but it is a very breezy top, and this is a pretty breathable fabric. So when I go to Florida, I would like to have the option to wear this. Made the top sole before, as I mentioned in the last episode. I made this as a gift knit for my sister's birthday this spring. So I know that once you get to the bottom, there's no finishing left. It's a garter stitch border that's worked as you work the armholes. So the armholes are done. There's nothing more to be done. And the entire V-neck, very hard to see because it's rolling in on itself and definitely needs a good block. But it's a slip stitch. You do a sort of slip stitch border as you're working it so that it doesn't stretch out, and it is meant to roll in a little on itself, and that's the edge. So basically when you get to the end, you bind off, and I believe the pattern calls for a couple braided ties. You braid small sections of yarn together and add them on to be little bows on the front. For my sisters, and I plan to do this again for myself, I have one of those little tulip I-cord makers, and I'm just going to do that. I thought it looked perfectly cute on hers, and I'll do the same for my own. I don't think doing an I-cord adds too much stiffness or bulk. It adds a little, but I don't think it detracts from it at all. And honestly, it's really fun to use the I-cord maker, and that's what I want to do. So that's what I'm going to do. So as you can see, I've progressed a lot. Last time I definitely had not joined under the arms yet. I don't remember where I was. I think I had finished the back section and had done maybe one and a partial of these front panels. So I've got a fair amount under the arm now. I think I can definitely get through it. This one has been my on-the-go project. I've been taking this to baseball games, and this has been my work project that I've worked on during meetings and trainings, and I have a little bit of travel this week for work, so I plan on bringing this one and hopefully finishing it up this week. Not a lot more to be said about it. It's most of a vest. It's nearly done. I just need to add some length and bind off and add those ties. So sorry if it feels like I'm rushing through this one, but I'm absolutely rushing through this one because my phone has had issues with its battery lately and kind of just crashes and dies all the time. And it did that earlier today, and it's not fully back to charged, and I'm kind of afraid that it's just going to die. So I'm trying to talk fast so I can get everything out, because I would like to make this podcast and get this episode out into the world before I get caught up in vacation preparations. And today's kind of my only chance to do it, but my phone is not cooperating. I have one more project to talk about it, and this is my new cast on. Now, in the last episode, when I was talking about my acquisitions, I did mention my intention to cast this one on using the Juniper Moon Cumulus that I had just acquired. And then I went and did that afternoon. So that's the way. So this is called Jumper. No, it's just called Take Me Out. It is a pullover sweater, but it's just called Take Me Out. This is from the Knits to Wear book by Kutuvakika. Really fun book. There's so many patterns in here that I would love to make, including one of the woolly fall patterns that is absolutely wormed its way into my brain and I can't wait to make, is this playful palette one. It's the pattern immediately before the one I'm making right now. And I already have the yarn picked out to make this. I showed that in the last episode too. Very excited about that. But Take Me Out is this super light drop shoulder cute little number. It's got these little eyelet flowers all over it, and then instead of ribbing at the hems, it's got this great detail where it's cables. And I thought that was so cute and so simple. So I am making mine out of this Cumulus cotton, which is not what's recommended, but I think it's coming out really nice. This is some of the softest cotton. I believe it's a Mako cotton. And yeah, it's just so fun. So I've got a lot more length to do. You can kind of get a preview of what the ribbing or the cables in lieu of ribbing will be, because there's this nice cable down the side and it looks so crisp in this cotton yarn. Really enjoying that. So this just kind of seamlessly morphs into the ribbing on both sides once you get down to the bottom. So since it is an oversized sweater, there's still a lot to be done here. And I'm really enjoying working on this one, but I have been mostly forcing myself to work on other things because I'm trying to wrap up these summer knits before I get into fall. But this has been really nice and mindless to work on. It's largely stockinette with occasional eyelet breaks to add these little like eyelet florets, and I think it's just such a sweet design. It's so simple. This is going to be such a nice lightweight but super soft and cozy fall sweater to have, and this is truly one of my favorite colors. I love mauve and peach and like muted warm colors. So yeah, I'm pleased with this and looking forward to working on it more once I've wrapped up some of these summer projects that I'm forcing myself through. So my plan is once I can wrap up a few of these, I think it's going to be really easy for me. I'm so close to finishing up the pressed flowers pullover. I'm really not far off from finishing up the Hygge burst blanket. Honestly, on like weekend days when I've actually sat and worked on it for a while, I've done 2 to 3 rows in a day. The fact that I only have 2 rows left to do on that means that I don't have very many hours left to put into it. So those should definitely be finished by next time. I'm hoping that top sole will be finished because I want to wear it before next time. And I mean, all I have to do is sew the lining in that bag. Basically, most of these should be done before I speak to you next. So I will probably, I will certainly have new cast-ons by next time because I have plans to do a couple projects for vacation. Like I said, I'm planning on talking about that separately because I always like to do a little separate vacation-y, not even a vlog because I'm not going to spend my vacation like doing work like that, but it is nice to kind of do a little project log before and after vacation to show what you can get done, and I think it is fun to share the sort of qualities that I look for in a pattern and a yarn combination to take on vacation, because that really can make or break your vacation knitting. You really have to think it through ahead of time, and I do think I have something to offer insofar as vacation knitting experience, so I always like to talk about those projects when I come across them. So I've got those 3 picked out. If you want spoilers, you can go look at my queue on Ravelry because I have already saved them there. But that should be coming in a couple of weeks. And after that, I think I'm going to jump headlong into woolly knits. I really want to get my husband's Staghorn errand back out and finish that up. And then I do want to cast on that playful palette. And I also have been looking at 2 years, I've been looking at this quantity I bought for the Lunenburg pullover, and I've never made that. I haven't even purchased that pattern yet, but I bought that kit specifically for that pullover, and it's like, I bought it when I was in Halifax. It's Canadian made yarn, Canadian dyed yarn, made for this specific kit, written or for a pattern written by a Canadian designer. So I think it's just a very good souvenir of that trip I did. And I have been looking at that kit I bought for like 2 years thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to cast that one on anytime now. And then I never do. So I see a lot of woolly color work in my future, and I love that. I'm excited for that. But for now, it's still summer technically, and I'm still gonna wrap up all of these old projects. So thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. I appreciate it if you made it all the way here. And if you did, you probably already know that we call this the end of the video club. If you stick around and watch to the end, we like to celebrate by doing a little show and tell. So here's a few of the entries that I received last time after my podcast. If you would like to partake and share with myself and with anybody watching a future episode what you're working on in general or what you're working on right this minute, you can go ahead and send me a picture with a little description, either to Instagram messages or to my email. That's both linked in the description below. And it's just, like I always say, but it's always true, it's really fun for me to have that sort of interaction and to get to have more of a discussion with you guys. It feels a lot less one-sided to me. I love having that interactivity and getting to see what everybody else is working on too. So thanks for sending in your submissions. Thanks for sticking around. I'm so glad that you could sit down for a few minutes for my tiny little short podcast today, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Bye.